DBT is a new architectural layer in the cloud data warehouse, and it is dedicated to transformations. And as I was thinking about this new layer, I was thinking about how fast we could get started on it. And as you can see here, I have identified 6 steps that we're going to walk through. I'll start off here with a very simple database. In fact, we're not going to be connecting to the cloud. We'll be working locally. And let me go ahead and show you that database. As you can see, I have here an instance of the database. I'm calling it demo.db, and it's a super simple database that simply has a couple of tables, one for colleges and another one for students. And that's all we're going to have in it. In fact, here's colleges, and then the next one is here's students. Pretty straightforward database. Now, going back to the number of steps we were going to do, the very first one will be setup. In fact, 1 and 2 are simply installations. And as you can see here, the steps on the Mac are to do a brew update and install of Git. I already have those two. So let's go ahead and do the brew tap DBT labs and so on. Now, before we do so, as you can see here on my command line, I'm at the desktop and I'm going to move into a folder I'm going to be working in, which is simply from the desktop source, then DBT. And so I am already at the directory. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that command and I'm going to go ahead and run it. And as you can see there, that ran pretty quickly because I had installed it previously to recording. Now, if we go back to the installation, as you can see there, the very first line under 2 is brew install and then the name of your connector. There's a number of them that are pre-configured and maintained by the community. There's 5 or so of them, I believe. One of them would be, one of the options could be Postgres. I'm not going to be using Postgres. As I mentioned, I'm going to be using SQLite, this super tiny light database. And so because of that, I'm going to be doing pip3 install dbt SQLite instead. And so I'm going to go ahead and enter that command. And as you can see there, that's really fast. A lot of it is because I already had it cached. And now going back to our list of instructions, here we're on to 4. And now we're going to go ahead and create our project. In this case, I'm going to call it light because it's a light project. So I'm going to go ahead and enter dbt init and then the name of my project. I'm going to go ahead and clear here the terminal. I'm going to go ahead and enter dbt init. And then as mentioned, the project name that I will choose is light. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the command and get started. And as you can see here, it is asking me which database would I like to use. I've only installed the SQLite connector, so it's the only choice. I'm going to go ahead and enter 1. And as you can see there, that was successful. It's telling me that for more information, I could look at the profiles.yaml file. And in general, it's just giving me some general directions there. Now, as you can see here on our next step, step 5, I'm simply getting there, or I've written a note for myself that says set the DB path in profile. Now, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop that tiny little database that I created onto my project. You can see here that I am in desktop source DBT Lite, that brand new project that we've just created. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy here the database onto my project. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and set our paths in the profile document. Now, as you can see here, I'm back in the terminal. I have opened up a new tab. That tab is at the root of my path, and that is where that directory for DBT gets created that has the profile document. You can see there profiles. I'm going to go ahead and open that up with my nano editors. I'm going to go ahead and enter there the name. And as you can see there are a few placeholders. Part of creating that DBT init, the creation of that directory structure and those placeholders that are created for me, is also entering a profile within profiles.yaml. And you can see there that it's given it the name of my project, which is light. And then I have a couple of profiles in there or under it. One is for dev and the other one is for prod, development and production. And I have there a database name that I can enter. I also have the path to my database file that I will be entering shortly. So I'm going to start off here by entering my database name. And I'm simply going to call it education because that's the type of data that I have, and I need to put this in quotes. Now I'm going to go ahead and enter the path. I called my database demo. And I'm going to go ahead and enter the path to where I have that. So you can see there. I'm going to go ahead and enter the same for the schema directory. And I'm going to go ahead and comment out the extensions. I'm not going to be using any extensions at this point. What is needed for SQLite is already within my machine. With the installation of SQL, you might need to put in SQLite 3 for Python. In my case, it worked without me having to do anything. And now I'm going to enter the same for the rest. Okay, now that I'm finished, I'm going to go ahead and exit and save. And now as a last step, we can run debug and then run. I left that out. Let's go ahead and enter here DBT debug. Let's go ahead and move into our projects. And here, go ahead and clear the screen. We can see that we are within the Lite directory. And so let's go ahead and enter DBT debug. And as you can see there, that was successful. All of the checks were performed. And now I can go ahead and enter DBT run. That ran as well, including the models. So although we didn't take a look at the source, I can drag and drop it onto Visual Studio, and we can see here the models that were tested. These are pre-configured placeholders that will pretty much work with anything you have. In this case, they happen to match my data as well. You can see that the rest of the folders are empty. So really the DBT file is just the placeholder test, or models as they're called in the world of DBT. So pretty easy to get started in this environment.